India's lunar mission Chandrayaan-3 has made a successful touchdown on the south pole of the moon. India is now the first nation to land a lunar lander on the moon's south pole. After the landing, the Indian Space Research Organization or ISRO gave the final confirmation. ISRO's chief said, and I quote, "We are on the moon." India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded ISRO scientists and congratulated Indians for the success of Chandrayaan-3. Leaders of BRICS met for the second day in the South African city of Johannesburg. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that his country supports the expansion of BRICS. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that his country will hold the BRICS summit next year. Putin said the 2024 BRICS summit will be held in the Russian city of Kazan. West Africa's regional bloc, ECOWAS, has rejected the Niger Junta's proposal for delayed elections. ECOWAS also reasserted its demand for the release of the country's detained president, Mohamed Bazoum. Last week, Niger school leader, General Abdurrahman Tiani, proposed transitioning to civilian rule over a period of 3 years. Zimbabwe is holding voting for its presidential elections. Over 6 million people are eligible voters. A total of 11 candidates, including current President Emmerson Mnangagwa, are contesting. Zimbabwe's election officials say results should be ready within the next 5 days. Pakistani officials safely rescued 7 children and 1 teacher from a cable car that was stranded mid-air yesterday. This was after students heading to school via the cable car became stranded after one of the cables snapped. The operation lasted over 15 hours. The Pakistani army was deployed for the rescue mission. Meanwhile, Pakistan's president has ordered an inquiry into the incident. Thailand's former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra has been hospitalized after spending 1 day in jail. He was rushed to a hospital after he complained of a pain in his chest. Doctors say Shinawatra has high blood pressure. Medical officials say they are monitoring Shinawatra's health conditions. In the US, the first round of the Republican Party's debate for the presidential race begins tonight. 8 candidates of the Grand Old Party will take part in the debate. It's being held in the American city of Milwaukee. However, the leading Republican candidate and former President Donald Trump has pulled out of the debate. Trump says, and I quote, "I already have a lead in the opinion polls. I am very well known." Meanwhile, authorities in the US state of Texas installed barbed wire fencing on the US-Mexico border. Officials say this has been done to keep asylum seekers from entering America. Texas has also deployed soldiers of the National Guard along the fencing. Last month, Texas officials installed large buoys on the Rio Grande River to prevent the influx of refugees. The US Department of Justice has sued Texas over the buoys, saying they were installed without proper federal approvals. At least 16 people were killed after a bus collided with a trailer in central Mexico yesterday. Officials say 36 people were injured in the accident. 3 of them are on life support. Mexican officials added that the passengers were on their way to Mexico-US border to seek asylum. Russia says it shot down 3 drones over Moscow early this morning. It says the drones were launched from Ukraine. Officials reported that 2 people were injured from the debris of the intercepted drones. The airspace over Moscow was closed down temporarily again. This is the second consecutive day that a drone reportedly launched from Ukraine targeted Moscow. Meanwhile, as per reports, Russia has appointed a new Air Force chief. He will replace the previous chief who was reportedly vanished after the Wagner mutiny in July. Russia's new air chief will also take charge of the country's space force. South Korea has begun 4-day-long nationwide defense drills amid growing tensions with North Korea. Over 4,000 government bodies and almost 600,000 civilians are taking part in the drills. Some of the exercises include defending against a simulated attack on South Korea's capital Seoul. North Korea has denounced the drills, calling them a rehearsal for war. Meanwhile, hundreds of people took to the streets of South Korea's capital Seoul. Protesters demanded that Japan roll back its plan to release water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. Demonstrators included members of South Korea's fishing community. They said that there was growing concern of fish being affected by the water from Fukushima. However, the South Korean government says that it sees no problem with Japan's plan to release the water. In climate news, heavy flooding took place in the Latin American nation of Colombia. This was after tropical storm Franklin made landfall. The storm is expected to strengthen over the next 2 days. Weather experts have said that wind and rains will batter several parts of Colombia. New footage shows the flooding of the Tino River in the South American nation of Chile. A huge amount of groundwater was seen overflowing, which caused portions of a highway to collapse. Chile's president has declared a state of emergency in 4 regions of the country. Tropical storm Harold made landfall in the US state of Texas yesterday. It brought strong winds and heavy downpours. Thousands of people in Texas are without power. Forecasters have warned of a possible flash flooding and minor damages to structures and buildings. Firefighters in the US state of Washington are battling 2 major fires. As per reports, at least 2 people have died. The Oregon road fire has burned over 4,000 hectares and destroyed 80 structures. The Gray Fire, on the other hand, threatens more than 800 residential structures in Washington. Wildfires continue to burn in the Greek capital of Athens. The fires sent plumes of smoke into the air. Aircraft dropped water on the blaze in an attempt to control the Athenian fires. Wildfires have engulfed several villages in northwestern Turkey. Footage shows flames burning houses. These houses were evacuated earlier in the day, and these fires have prompted the evacuation of 6 villages on its paths. This is as per Turkey's Agriculture and Forest Ministry. In Venice, tourists are battling scorching temperatures. This comes as heatwave Nero hit Italy this week. Humidity levels are also expected to be high. The heatwave is likely to last until the end of this week. Weather forecasters expect temperatures to rise to 38 degrees Celsius in several parts of Italy. Now on to business and tech news. US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo will travel to China next week. She will meet senior Chinese government officials. Her visit marks the latest in a recent series of high-level visits to Beijing. Last month, US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen completed a 4-day trip to the country. China's Xiaomi may soon make electric vehicles. It has won China's approval to manufacture EVs in the country. Earlier, the company pledged to invest $10 billion in the auto business over a decade. It has set a goal to begin mass producing its cars in the first half of 2024. However, the venture still needs approval from the Ministry of Industry and Information. Huawei Technologies is reportedly building secret semiconductor facilities across China. These facilities will likely help Beijing skirt US sanctions. Reports say the tech giant moved into chip production last year. It is reportedly receiving about $30 billion in funding from the Chinese government. Turkish grocery delivery firm Getir is planning to cut 2,500 jobs across 5 countries. This is about 11% of its total workforce. Last month, the company also announced its exit from Italy, Spain, and Portugal. Reports say the US antitrust regulator is expected to open an investigation into semiconductor maker Qualcomm. This is over its purchase of the Israeli chip maker Autotalks. Autotalks makes chips used in crash prevention technology in vehicles. The deal would help Qualcomm expand its automotive-related business. The US has fined Japanese financial firm Nomura Holdings. Nomura has agreed to pay a fine of $35 million. This comes over a decade-long criminal fraud probe against the company by the US Department of Justice. The company's traders have been accused of lying to customers about bond prices in order to boost profits. The New York Stock Exchange has suspended trading in the stock warrants of WeWork. This is due to abnormally low trading price levels. A stock warrant is an employer-issued contract allowing customers to buy a company's stock at a set price. Earlier this month, WeWork warned about its inability to continue business. Meta says it will bring default end-to-end encryption to the Facebook's Messenger app. It will come by the end of this year. Until now, the feature has mostly been optional or experimental. The company has been facing mounting pressure to introduce the feature to protect user privacy. This is ever since Meta handed over user chats to police in the US, which led to arrests. Meanwhile, US lawmakers have held up the tech giant in another case. They say that Facebook's marketplace still widely sells recalled baby products. This is despite requests from federal regulators to take them down. The recalled products are linked to more than 100 infant deaths. Several TikTok users in Somalia have said they oppose the country's ban on the social media platform. Users have said that they use the platform to earn money and work. They say the ban would potentially hurt their business. Earlier this week, Somalia banned TikTok, the messaging app Telegram, and online betting website 1xBet. This was to limit the spread of propaganda through the application. Moving to sports, in cricket, Zimbabwe's former captain Heath Streak was rumored to be dead. The announcement was made by his former teammate Henry Olanga on social media. Firstpost reached out to Streak to confirm the news, and he dismissed the rumors himself. Olanga tweeted again today to confirm that Heath Streak is alive. In football, Spain's acting Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez criticized Luis Rubiales for his gesture at the Women's World Cup. Rubiales is Spain's Football Federation chief. He had kissed a Spanish player during post-match celebrations at the World Cup. His action sparked outrage from several government ministers. Pedro Sanchez condemned his unacceptable gesture and demanded further clarification. In football, English Premier League club Manchester City will sign winger Jeremy Doku from League One side Rennes. According to reports, the deal is worth over $70 million. The 21-year-old Belgian is expected to travel to Manchester for his medical. Doku has made more than 90 appearances for Rennes. Manchester United's Mason Mount will not play in the next two Premier League matches. The 24-year-old midfielder has suffered an injury. This was during Man United's match against Tottenham on Saturday. United's next matches are against Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. English Premier League club Burnley have signed English midfielder Aaron Ramsey from Aston Villa. Burnley will reportedly pay Villa over $17 million for Ramsey. The 20-year-old will join Burnley on a 5-year contract.